The presenter, who's Michelangelo, will be stopping throughout the class and taking questions, and Angelina will make sure that he answers any questions you have. So if you have questions, make sure and put them in the chat during the presentation. Also, if you have any technical problems, let us know that in the chat as well, and Angelina and I will do our best to help you. Lastly, this program will be recorded. If you do not wish to appear on the recording, either on voice or video, please make sure that your audio and video are disabled. Interactions via chat will not appear on the recording. And so with that, let me introduce our presenter. You've already met Michelangelo Sosa, who is a circulation attendant with the San Antonio Public Library. He has years of experience working with computers. He works actually at the same library I do, the Memorial Branch. So I can tell you firsthand that he is a wizard with technology. Whenever we have problems or questions, Michelangelo always knows how to help us, and we're so grateful for that. So with that, join me in welcoming Michelangelo Sosa.
Thank you. All right, well, let me get started here. It's going to be an introductory course to Microsoft Excel. As Freddie mentioned earlier, we're just going to cover some basic formulas, tables, and some potential ways that you'd be able to use Excel in ways that might be valuable to you or your business or in your lives, in your personal lives. I use Excel almost daily to manage my own budget personally, and I've been able to make a number of dashboards using Excel to kind of help the library, my library, my branch, kind of use it as a call log template, and we've been able to get a lot of information out of it extremely simply and easily. And none of that would be at all possible without knowing the fundamentals of it, which is what we're going to go over today. So just a little bit about Excel. There's a number of reasons why it's really important. It's extremely accessible and extremely versatile. So it's almost nearly ubiquitous. You can use it almost everywhere, and it'll have value in whatever position that you're using it in. It performs iterative calculations. That's one of the huge selling points. So if you have a whole bunch of different numbers adding up to a single summation, if you change one of those numbers, it'll actually propagate the total into that sum that you have. So if you have a number of numbers stacked up and you change one of the numbers, it's actually going to change the total for you. And then you can have that go from top to bottom and side to side, and it'll change everything. So you can do it with pen and pencil on a calculator, and it'll take you a few minutes to get that done. But if you do it through Excel, it'll only take you 2 seconds to update the number that you need to update. And we'll try to go through something like that a little bit later. It performs a variety of calculations on multiple data types. So what that means is you can perform calculations on not just numbers, as in regular numbers or scientific notations, but you can also do it on money, for accounting or finances, percentages, fractions, decimals, and even time. And it's extremely useful, especially if you're going to be logging time, if you're going to be tracking time, or you're going to be making a spreadsheet about I don't know, say for clocking in to work, for example. It would be able to clock all those times for you, and you'd be able to add up the time as you would regular numbers. It's an extremely valuable skill to learn, as I'm sure all of you know. If you know just a little bit, if you know just the fundamentals, and you'll be able to get by extremely well, and you'll look super cool doing it, being a data nerd. And best of all, it's easy to organize data and visualize it. You can make charts out of it, and the design aspect of the data, if it doesn't look organized, if there's just random raw numbers all over the place, then it's not going to be very useful to your clients. But if you're able to organize it and visualize it for them, then you'll be able to put together something really robust on your own. So the software that I'm going to be using today, it is Excel 2019 for Business and Office 365. These things, they come standard with the city. At home, I'm using a subscription of Office 365. I was able to get a good subscription with school, which has been extremely handy. So if you don't have Excel 2019 for Business or Office 365, the important thing is you have the big three: Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. All right, and if you don't have it, right, because the suite costs about $300 or so, and a subscription Office 365 on a regular basis would be about $100 for a year subscription. So there are accessibility options where you don't have to spend all that money if you need those core programs. All right, so there is Office. Get this thing out of the way. There is Office Online. You would be able to make an account on your own. And if you know someone who doesn't have an email and they still need these programs, and you'd be able to tell them about this, it's Office Online, and they'll set up an email with you. So, and if you don't have an email, if you do have an email, but you don't have an Office subscription, then you can still come over here and get it. And this is online only, so you would need to have internet in order to access this bunch of programs. There's the Google Suite. The thing I forgot to mention earlier about Office Online is that it'll only give you those core programs, and Office Online is a little bit more limited than the programs that you download. Then there's the Google Suite. It gives you the full set of tools that the regular Office will give you. It would just be slightly limited because they don't have the same tools, although they have alternatives and their own terminologies. But Google Sheets is almost as robust as Office Online. And the thing about that one is that you also have to do it with an internet connection. And then the LibreOffice Suite, in case you don't want to use an online suite of applications, if you want to download it and not have to sign up or make an account or anything like that, which I totally get, you can go through LibreOffice. It is a nonprofit. So you don't have to pay for anything, and it is open source software. So you can download it and you can still get the same tools that we're going to be going over today. Most of the same tools anyways. And this one you have to install into your computer. So it's desktop only. And the best part of all with these guys is that it's free. All of these things are free. So I'm going to be putting up a link at the end of the presentation, and also there is a web page you'll be able to visit that I will show to you at the end of this presentation. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, so over here we have the clipboard, we have the cut, copy, paste, which everyone's familiar with, and the format painter is extremely useful and handy. Whenever you're designing things, you want to really focus on the font part and alignment. Right here we have the number. This would be the data types that I was mentioning earlier: currency, accounting, short dates, or long dates. So if we type in, say, January 1st, you could change the way it looks based on the data type. And it is extremely useful, and it is cruel mistress at times. Right up here, we have under the styles, how to make a table and conditional formatting. Extremely powerful. All right, and then over here under insert, we have the pivot table, which I'll be trying to hit a little bit later today. It's extremely useful for comparative analysis. And then we have the charts right up here. Okay. All right, and then the layout, this is the page setup. This is where you're going to be focusing on if you need to print something out. Use the print area or the size of paper in order to designate what you need to print. This is the library of formulas under the formulas tab. You can find all the formulas that Excel knows how to do right under here. And most of them anyways come with instructions on how to use them. But it's a little bit more advanced, so we probably won't be touching on a lot of these in this particular presentation. We have the get data command right here, which would help you for your databases, taking in tables from Azure or from an actual database like Access or an Oracle database. Or you can use Excel as a database and use Excel in order to bring in other values from a different workbook or from JSON, which we probably won't be hitting today. No, we won't be hitting today. But this would be probably where you find your commands. And right up here is the filter, the sorts. And there are a whole lot of ways in order to do this. And I'll be trying to hit that today. Data validation, this is basically where you just make sure that your data matches the parameters you set down if you're going to be sharing your workbook with other people. All right, I usually don't use this particular tab, the review tab. The only one that I really might use if I ever have to share a workbook is protect sheet and protect workbook. You can use it to protect particular ranges so that other people aren't touching formulas or things that you have preset for them already. And then the view tab. I really don't use this one too much either. I feel like it just kind of gets in the way sometimes. But this one right here, the freeze panes, it has been very useful at times. So whenever you want to freeze, say this pane right here, this row, you select the row right underneath it, right? And then freeze panes, and then it stays up. But other than that, I don't really use these other tabs. I usually stay at the home tab. Just a second. So first, we're going to go over what the layout of a spreadsheet is, the basic vocabulary terms that you would most commonly hear so that you can coordinate on a spreadsheet. Okay, so there is the cells, the columns, the rows, range, sheets, workbook, and the formula bar. Okay, so a cell, it is this part right here. It is just a single box. It's a grid of boxes. That's all Excel is. All right, when you go up and down on the spreadsheet, this is going to be called the column. And then going side to side, left to right, it's going to be the rows. So you can see right here, let me switch. So going up and down, you'd be able to select everything going up and down here. And that is usually being identified in Excel as the letter. You'd be able to use these as a set of coordinates. So if I'm going to select this box right over here, this cell, this would be known as L1. It tells you what the coordinate is right over here. So you can basically go all the way to the side till as far as the computer can compute. And you can also go as far down to the bottom, also as far as the computer can compute. This is how most of the time Excel can be used as a database, because other database querying programs are able to identify sets of data by identifying where that data is in a specific coordinate. Kind of like what we're seeing right here, M1, L9. And then you can see where it's being identified up here by the columns and the rows. Okay, go back to the PowerPoint. A range is going to be a set of boxes that you've selected, a set of cells. All right, so you can draw a square around any set of cells, and this would be known as your range. Okay, and there is a bit of a difference between tables and ranges. You can still perform actions to both of them, but the difference between a table and range is that a table is named. So just remember that. A range can be anything, but a table is something that you've already identified. Sheets, they're going to be these fellas at the bottom here. Hang on. I'm gonna go back to Excel for that. Okay, so as you can see down here on the Excel sheets, we have multiple sheets that are being identified with the specific names. All right, and each sheet has something that is unique about it. All right, and if you have a whole bunch of sheets put together, then you got a book. But in Excel, you have a workbook. I thought that was cool. And then you have the formula bar, which is where we do most of our formulations. All right, so right up here, all it does is it makes things easier to type in case there are any formulas that end up getting too long, because they can get pretty, what's the word? Meticulous. There's columns and there's columns that you need to follow if you're going to be writing a long, strung out formula, a set of actions that you can perform to a certain set of cells. So I hope I haven't scared anyone just yet. All right, but those are the basic terms that you need to know in order to navigate an Excel sheet. Any questions? All right.
It looks like we have no questions at this time.
All right. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to go over are the basic functions. This is where we're going to start getting into the formulas territory. So basic arithmetic functions. Excel can do all of these things. It can add up, it can subtract, multiply, and divide. All right, I have it laid out right over here. 5 plus 5 is going to give you the product. 5 minus 5 is going to give you the product of that too. 5 times 5, 5 divided by 5. It's going to perform all these functions for you, and it'll give you the result of it. And anytime you change one of the numbers, it's going to give you the result of that. It's one of the features of the iterative calculations. Okay, so right up here, I have the life-saving formulas, which we are going to dive into Excel with right now. Okay, so if any of y'all have seen the LibGuide just yet, then I do have the Excel spreadsheet over there if you want to try to play with it yourself a little bit later. I will provide the link a little bit later, but I'm pretty sure it was sent out with the confirmation. I think it was sent out with confirmation, but take a look here. All right, there's going to be one of the cool little things that we can do with Excel. All right, so if we hit equal, that's how we begin the formula. We click on each of the cells in this table, and then we hit enter. Well, I look dumb now, don't I? I promise this works. Oh, that's because I didn't add anything. I am dumb. Okay, and then just the same way, we'd be able to subtract everything if we wanted to. And then the easier way to do one of these things is to use a formula. All right, so this term right here, this is what Excel would look at in order to parse the action that you want to do to a set of cells. So a set of cells is called a range. Remember that. So I'm going to use a sum formula that I've written down over there, equals sum. And then I'm going to hit the parentheses. Everything inside this parentheses, Excel is going to automatically begin to add up, as long as it is the same data type. So you wouldn't be able to add apples and 50 at the same time. It would have to be 50 and 20 at the same time. Okay, so in order to select the range, all I need to do is click on the first cell and then drag down. All right, and then I have to close it off with the parentheses, just like in PEMDAS. You need to always close the parentheses. Oh my God. Oh, that's why. Again, Excel can be very meticulous. Okay, so that would be a sum function right there. All right, and then you'd be able to get a little bit more specific if you ever have a need to only select a few things with parameters. Say that you got a whole bunch of pies donated to you, right? In this particular case down here, I'm going to use some thick borders to illustrate that. These guys were donated, so I'm not counting them as stock for some reason. All right, over here I'm going to use a different formula. It's going to be the sum if formula. This is where I can perform a sum function with criteria. So if I type in sum if, then I select my range by dragging all the way down here. I'm going to hit comma. And this is where I begin selecting my criteria. And this is where also Excel is helping me out. It's telling me exactly how to perform the function. Okay. And the way you denote the criteria is with that comma right there and the quotations. I'm going to say less than 40. Close the quotations and close the parentheses. The only thing that is less than 40 is going to be the 20. Okay. And then if I want to go the other way around, I want to only choose the things that are greater than 40. I'm going to hit the symbol going the other way around. All right, and it's only adding up all the things that are above 40. So the only things that are above 40, 50, 100, and 50 again, which is 200. Any questions so far? I know that was a lot.
We do have one question. Someone asked, why was there a colon in the middle?
A colon. Oh, in the formulas, that's what Excel uses to denote ranges. So if I wanted to write that out myself, equals sum of, let me say, F4 to G4, right? It would be known to Excel as a range, G4. All right, I'm going to show you that in just a second here. 2 plus 5, all right, equals to 7. All right, and then that's how Excel identifies what a range is in its formula functions. So you'd be able to extend that, or you'd be able to minimize it. All right, and that's all it is. It's how Excel identifies a range to itself. Okay.
Thanks, Mike. There's no more questions, but I do want to mention two things really quickly. As you type your questions in the chat, make sure you're sending it to everyone. Also, I wanted to let you know, Mike, that I attached the sample Excel file for tonight's program into the chat. So Michelangelo mentioned there's a sample Excel file. I did put it in the chat if anyone wants to open, save, or look at that. So that is available to everyone, Mike.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on from the sum if. We are going to try subtracting now. All right, I'm just going to add this as a little sidebar over here. I'm going to say that out of 300 units, okay, I want to find out exactly how many have not been counted. Okay, so out of 300, it remains the same. Even if I include the Excel equals sign, sorry, the formula equals sign, and I put a whole number right behind it, it's going to count it as that. Okay, it's not going to change any data types. It's just going to be what you put in. All right, but if I add in an arithmetic operator, all right, a subtraction sign, and then I'm going to select a cell right over here. Okay, 300 minus B 17, all right, in column B, row 17. And I'm going to hit enter now, and it's going to give me whatever the sum of that is. Okay, as they say, addition is just another, subtraction is just another form of addition, right? So I'm going to try to change this formula right over here. You don't have to follow along with this part, but it is pretty interesting. That is the iterative calculations. I'm going to put less than 10. Right now it's 260. 300 minus 260 now. I want to show that off a little bit because it is extremely valuable when you're able to automatically recalculate your entire range of predetermined numbers, and it automatically fixes itself for you. Okay, so right over here under table 3, we're going to be trying to perform a multiplication function right over here. I think you all can guess how this is going to go. I'm going to hit the equal sign, and then I'm going to select this first cell. All right, and then I'm going to tell it to multiply that first cell by the cell right next to it, G4. Okay, I'm going to hit enter right here. Okay, so I have 2 apples at a price of $5, which means I have $10 in stock of apples. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the oranges right down here. Equals F5 times G5. I'm going to hit enter. It's going to be $18 worth of stock of oranges. I'm going to hit the equal sign right over here. 4 times 7. Hit enter. It's 28. Okay. So that's basically how you do the multiplication. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, I think. And I also wanted to show you all something a little bit kind of cool. It took me a while to figure this one out, but apparently it was a new feature. So whenever you select a certain range, Excel begins to automatically recognize that there's a pattern happening. So if you begin to drag it down, say 1, it's going to automatically add it in. And you can do it for all kinds of things. Right? And then you can pretty much go for as long as you want. And it'll just keep on adding it for you without you having to do it yourself. And I like it when technology works for me instead of the other way around. You know, sometimes technology just makes your life difficult. So in the name of that, I'm also going to show you something else, another little Excel trick. You can hit copy or Control-C. That would be a shortcut. I'm going to click right here in the cell right below it, and I'm going to paste it. All right, and that's going to paste the same formula, but it's going to drop down to the right cells that I needed to perform the formula to. Okay. And then I'm going to add up all these numbers because if I'm a business owner, I want to know exactly how much stock and money that I have. Sum, open parentheses, and select the range here, and then close parentheses, enter. It's $96 worth of stock. Okay, and now I'm going to find out exactly how many units in inventory that I have. So I could just do the same thing. I could write equal sum, select the range, and then close the parentheses, right? Or I could just copy and paste it, and it'll automatically propagate for me. So over here, it's going to be a little bit different, all right? I want to start working on this thing, but I can't begin yet. I got to make sure that this thing stops moving, or else things can begin happening to this that I don't want to happen. So all I got to do is hit escape to close that out. All right, and I'm going to start a new formula because I know how much the units are, and I know how much I sold in table 4, but I don't know how many units I've sold yet. So I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing. I'm going to divide. So I'm going to hit equals to start the function, the formula, and I'm going to select the price of items and divide it by 15. Well, that's not right, right? It's because the bigger number no, actually that is right. I'm sorry. That's not right. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I get in my head a little bit much. I think Freddie knows all about that. There's 3 units of inventory. Okay, and it's going to show you the decimal points because it's showing you as a number. It thinks it's going to be bigger than what it actually is. So we just go back over here under number to decrease decimal, and then we get that. So we get rid of the decimal points in a set number. Okay, and again, I could just do the same thing, do the math all over again to the next set of cells down here, and then I could copy and paste it so that it's a little bit easier and I have to do less work now. Okay, so again, I want to find out how much stock in dollars that I have. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it. All right, I know how much money I have, and I'm going to do the same thing, copy, paste. Any questions?
No questions right now, Michelangelo.
Oh, just really quickly, I don't want to take up too much more time. These are some extremely life-saving formulas that I've been able to use in order to make life a little bit easier for myself and my coworkers, and even clients that I've used these things to help put things together. All right, it's going to be another formula. It's called the max formula. Okay, so whenever you put together a max formula, it looks at a range and it returns to you the highest value in that particular range. It can be horizontal, it could be vertical, or it could be all over the place. But whatever range of numbers you decide to select, it's going to return to you the largest number. And this one, the largest number will be 50. Okay. And if I wanted to select a second range, all I would need to do is hit comma and then drag and drop on another range. Okay, I don't need to close to enter now. It's going to return to you the largest one. Okay. And over here, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this just so that I don't have to reselect the same range as before. All right, I'm going to hit min, and it's going to return to me the smallest number in that range. And then same thing for average. You'd be able to do the average like you normally would. You can add up a range of numbers and then divide it by the number of numbers that is in that range in order to return the average to you. Or you can just type in average, select the range over here, and it'll figure it out for you. So that would be 50 plus 30 plus 10 plus 50 divided by 4, and you get the average back. This one over here, transpose, it's a little bit tricky to manage at first, but it is very useful in that it can transform your table from being the way it is right now. You see meat and amount at the top, beef, chicken, pork, and fish at the bottom, and it'll turn it into an array and transform the position that it is in. So transpose, I'm going to select my range right here, and close it with the parentheses. Sorry, I need to hit Control Enter in order to do that. Man, that's not right. Okay, you know what? I think Excel is just not being nice to me today. Okay, so we're gonna go over the count A next, which at first it might not seem all that useful, but once you start to find different purposes for it, it becomes extremely useful to have as a weapon in your arsenal. All right, so what it does for you is it finds the number of cells that have nothing filled in. So I'm going to go right over here and do a vertical range and then close the parentheses. And it tells me 5. And all it's doing is counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells that are not, that have something in them. All right, that one is not filled in. So if I just put something in there, it transforms into 6. And then the count if. It does the same thing, but you're able to add parameters, just like the sum if formula. All right, I'm going to hit count if, open the parentheses, then I'm going to select this range of things. You know what? Let me change that. And look at the words over here. I'm going to hit comma, just like before, with the sum if function, and I'm going to open quotations. And I'm looking for specifically fish. And you have to be sensitive to the capitalizations, or else it's not going to find it for you. Excel can be meticulous like that. All right, there's only one fish in this range. All right, and what if I want to find something else? I want to find out how many times bread was entered into a range of numbers. So I could find the coordinates and type it in myself, or I could just drag this guy right over here to find bread. And I could extend it horizontally, and it'll find just the bread for me, and it'll count that for you. So these are the things that have been extremely useful to me whenever I've put together a dashboard or different things. This has been what I've been able to use to put together something useful. Any questions?
Looks like there's no questions, Michelangelo.
All right. Well, the next thing we're going to hit is conditional formatting. This thing can really hit it home for you, and it is extremely useful. It's one of those things that provides visual data to you. So I'll just show you a couple of things here. So this is what a spreadsheet looks like without the conditional formatting, right? So it's going to show you just the letters and the words that you put together on a range with no formatting at all, okay? And then over here, this is a sheet with conditional formatting. It's showing you everything according to the parameters, and it highlights it for you. So let me get into that before we close up. Okay, so if we're going to create a rule over here that highlights numbers between that are below 1,000, okay, I'm going to go over here to conditional formatting after I've selected a range. Okay, I'm going to highlight, go to highlight cells, and then I'm going to go to less than. All right, it's going to bring this up for me, and all I'm going to do is type in 1,000. And there you go. Everything is below $1,000 has been highlighted for me. And similarly, we can do that for anything that is in between a set of numbers. So over here, it says between 1,000 and 3,000. That is to imply anything that is above 3,000 and anything that is below 30,000. All right, I'm going to change the color to yellow. There you go. Conditional formatting, highlight cells, and then greater than anything that is above $30,000. I'm going to change it to green. Okay, and then you can apply those rules to any larger set of numbers any way you want. So over here under profit loss projection, conditional formatting, I'm going to go to greater than, anything that is greater than $10 in this particular case, which looks like everything, but it helps single out these other numbers that are less than $10. So do we have any questions about conditional formatting?
No questions so far.
Okay. All right. And then the last thing I want to go over is tables before we close up for the evening. There was a few things that I wanted to go over a little bit later, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to with the time. I wanted to go over pivot tables, but I did leave some instructions in the presentation, which I will show a little bit later once we close up. So what a table is versus a range is it's something that you've named versus a range, which is just a random collection of cells. Right here, this is a range. But over here, all right, I'm going to name it table 1. And then I'm going to select the range that I want to be called table 1. I'm going to go over here to format as a table. And I like these colors. So I'm going to hit this one. And my table already has headers. So employee, food, hotel, those are going to be my headers. And hit OK on that. And that's it. All right, now it is a table. I hit Control A, it's going to select just the things that are the tables. And one of the cool things that I liked about this, especially in this version of Excel, when you select the range that is called table 1, the table 1 itself, and I hit this little guy at the bottom right here, little box, I'm going to select totals, and then I'm going to select sum. And it's going to sum up everything for me. And if I don't want that summation, if I don't want that specific function to be included, it's got all the different functions you can perform to that range of numbers. So you got average, you got the max, you got the sum, standard deviant average for you statisticians out there. But that has been extremely useful. So I'm going to do the same thing to table 2 over here. It's a larger range, and there's more that I can do to it. So I'm going to format it as a table with the same style. Hit OK. See that right there? It's got the colon, it's got the numbers. Okay. And then one of the cool things that you can do with a table is you can actually sort them. All right. So sort by oldest to newest by those data types that I was talking about earlier. You can sort alphabetically with these little boxes, Z to A, or you can sort from smallest to largest. You can even sort by color. So I'm going to go over here to home. I'm going to highlight this, filter by color, and only show you the important stuff. Okay, I'm going to clear filter. All right, and that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Looks like there's no questions.
All right. Well, I'm going to come back here to the PowerPoint just to cover a pivot table really quickly. It's a tool that lets you compare trends in a certain table that you specified. So I'm just going to show you that really quickly before I let you go. All right, under pivot table, all right, this has already been transformed into a table. You can tell because right here you got the little boxes, and you got the little thing that extends the table, whether you needed it or not. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and hit Control A, and then I'm going to go to Insert and hit Pivot Table, and then Existing Worksheet. And I don't want it to go to a different sheet. I want it to stay right here. So I'm just going to select this right here, F. And it doesn't matter where, you can do it wherever you want. I'm going to hit OK right there. And then notice that it gives me this set of boxes right over here. And the only data that I need to the salesperson and the amount. And I don't need the months. Okay, and let's sort all of these things out, and you can put them together however you need them so that it is valuable to you. And let's edit the table without you actually having to put together a new table. So wish we had more time to go through this, but I think we're all out. Do we have any questions?
No more questions. One person did ask if we're going to do any more Excel classes. So I appreciate your interest. We'll definitely consider that. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to type them into the chat. I did want to mention once again, thanks to everyone who came tonight. Thanks to Michelangelo for a great presentation. I certainly learned a lot. And also thanks to Angelina, who joined us as well. Someone did ask, is there a way we can contact you, Michelangelo, if they have questions?
Absolutely. So you'd be able to email me if you have any crazy questions, angelo.sosa@sanantonio.gov. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat for you. Yeah, I'd be really excited to hear your questions about Excel.
And also someone asked about the PowerPoint. Tomorrow I will send an email to everybody who attended, and on that email I will include the PowerPoint along with the sample Excel file that Michelangelo shared. Also, as he mentioned, there's a great LibGuide on the library's website. The library's website is mysapl.org. I shared the address for that LibGuide in the chat a little earlier, but tomorrow in my email, I'll include a link to that LibGuide along with the PowerPoint and the Excel file. I believe you can find the PowerPoint and Excel file on that LibGuide. Is that correct, Michelangelo?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I uploaded it, and it is right now on the LibGuide. So if you click on the link that Freddie sent out earlier, guides.mysapl.org/digital-inclusion/Excel, you'll be able to find the presentation and the Excel spreadsheet that I was using today.
So I pasted again a link to the LibGuide in the chat, but I'll also include that in my email to everybody tomorrow. So thank you again for joining us. Thanks again to Michelangelo and Angelina. This was a program for Digital Inclusion Month, which is throughout May. And I encourage everyone to check out the library's website for more digital inclusion programs and other great programs going on throughout SAPL. Again, the library's website is mysapl.org. If you're interested in more computer-related classes next Tuesday at 6, Michelangelo is teaching one. It's an intro to coding. Feel free to go on the library's website and register for that one. And then in 2 weeks, on the 25th at 6, there is an intro to job resumes. So a lot of great things going on throughout the libraries. Feel free to check out the website and see what all we have to offer. It looks like there's no more questions. So thanks again to everyone for joining us. Thanks to Michelangelo and Angelina. It was a great presentation, and I hope everyone learned a lot.
Thank you.
Everyone have a good night. Thanks for joining us. Take care.